This is reviewer 03, bringing you a review of Steins Gate, also known as the anime for perverts. It's the kind of anime that has a lot of rape, a lot of hentai scenes, and it makes sexual innuendos all the time. Even the title is one big sexual innuendo. You know, Stein is German for stone, and it symbolizes, well, I'm sure you know what it symbolizes. And the gate? Well, I'm sure you know what that stands for. And now an explanation so that even our young viewers understand. When a man and a woman love each other very, very much, the man asks the woman to open her microwave so the man can put his sausage in there. And when the sausage overheats, it leaves a real mess. And this mess? That's you. And now that I've traumatized all children watching this review, let's move on. Steins Gate is set in Japan in the year 2010, and the story revolves around a self-proclaimed mad scientist named Rintaro Okabe, alias Kiyoma Hoyin. His ultimate goal is to conquer the world, or keeping others from conquering the world. Something like that.
見ろ、人がゴミのようだ。いい眺めだ。
In order to achieve his goal, he created various scientific inventions, including a microwave time machine. With this time machine, he can send text messages into the past, thus creating new futures. And since altering the timeline sounds like a really funny game, he allows every female creature he knows to alter the past. I mean, what can go wrong? I promise never to alter the timeline again. Unfortunately, our mad scientist didn't take into consideration that other people might be working on their own time machine to conquer the world. And so he ends up fighting SERN, an European organization which allowed Europe to conquer the world in the future, through time travel. You know, we Europeans are tired of conquering the world the old way. It was a lot of work, people. First we had to create powerful armies, then we had to conquer all those territories, kill some people, and build an infrastructure so we could plunder those regions, and then we had to be in a state of constant vigilance. And what did we get for it? Ungrateful colony number 1, which dared to revolt against us and which makes still fun of the French, although their fucking liberty statue is made in France. Then we have ungrateful colony number 2, which declared their independence right the moment Europe was busy with its millionth war. Backstabbing bastards. Then we have ungrateful colony number 3, which complains all the time that everything bad that ever happened to them is our fault. Although nearly all of them have been independent for 50 years, and although the Arab and African slave trade was just as devastating as the European one. So Europe decided to conquer the world by manipulating the timelines, which is a much easier way than through military force. So this anime is basically about Hoyin and his friends fooling around with the timelines, being busy fixing them afterwards, and trying to create a timeline in which Europe doesn't invent a time machine and doesn't conquer the world. Now this anime was just great. It had some funny moments and only very few action scenes, but it still managed to keep you interested and entertained all the time. It's also romantic, quite dramatic, and sometimes really dark and intense. The characters were really realistic since they didn't do the typical over-the-top stuff you see in other animes. And I also liked the animation, since it wasn't the type of animation where the colors are so bright and intense that you get an epileptic shock. What I didn't like was the fact that this anime starts really slow. The first 2 or 3 episodes are really hard to get through since you don't have any idea what's going on. From episode 4 onwards, it gets much better, but it isn't smart to make the first episodes the most confusing and least interesting. And the second thing I didn't like was the fact that this anime doesn't make any sense at all. Just an example. In this scene, Smarty Girl uses this formula to compensate for the effect of the Einstein-Rosen bridge. But this formula is wrong, since it doesn't take into account the Einstein-Podolsky-Rosen paradox, which occurs when an object is passing through the bridge. What the hell am I talking about? I don't understand this shit. Ah, what the hell. I'm giving this anime a perfect score. It did a really good job in combining all the time paradox stuff with the story and explaining them in a comprehensive, entertaining and not too complicated way. So I simply applaud this intelligence. As for the rest, I'm willing to ignore the few little mistakes since those were really just minor things and perfection requires mistakes after all.